Hey, what's up, hello? My name is Emma, and today I'm doing something a little different. So as I now have this beautiful iMac, I recently had to take down all of the files that were on my computer for the last 12 years and figure out which ones I wanted to keep and which ones I didn't really want, and I came across this very interesting file. So basically, my senior year of high school, we were able to choose 2 different English classes to take. So I took Shakespeare and contemporary literature. Now, I loved my contemporary literature class. It was honestly the best experience. We sat in a circle every day. It was only like 15 kids, and it was with the coolest teacher in the entire world, and we just talked and made jokes and talked about books the whole time, and it was honestly such a great high school experience despite that year being so terrible for me. Now, my contemporary literature class started right before I started my booktube channel, and one of our very first assignments, which I think is actually before I even created my booktube channel, was to write a review of the first book that we had read in our class, which was This Is How You Lose Her by Junot Diaz. So I found this review and I thought it would just be a really unique video reading to you guys my very first book review and what I said in it and what I was like as a reviewer before joining booktube. So I'm gonna read that to you today. Now, let me preface, I hated this book. I hated this book with every fiber of my being. I came into class every single day with this fire in me to defend against anyone who thought that this book was good because I thought it was a piece of trash. I understand Junot Diaz is a very highly acclaimed writer, and I know a lot of people love his books. I haven't read anything else by him. I'm not really motivated to, but I hated this book with every fiber of my being. So to the people who think that I don't make critical reviews, you are in for a treat. So it's titled, This Is How You Lose Her Review. Junot Diaz's collection of short stories, This Is How You Lose Her, would better be titled, This Is How You Lose a Reader. This being my first experience with Diaz's work, I can easily say it will be my last as well. If that was my starting sentence, can you just imagine what you guys are in for? Growing up in a Latino-based community in New Jersey, Junior reveals the tales of his childhood and adolescence through life as a college professor. These 9 stories are full of Junior's accounts between his cancer-diagnosed older brother, absent father, and more than several girls he's been involved with. The unconstructive influence these men have on Junior, such as their vulgar treatment of women and altogether absence in his life, are a clear basis for the drastic change from Junior's smart, sensitive childhood to the man who reveals in Tillich. This is when the Tiffios craze was really big, so I thought it was super cool for like abbreviating it to Tillich in my review. These stories are likely to be excerpts from a journal kept throughout his life due to the informal, raunchy, and untraditional writing, which in this case is anything but positive. The vocabulary used is some of the most offensive, vulgar words I have ever had the struggle reading through in a genuinely published book. I was truly amazed that this book got published with how gross it was. As a reader, even I was offended by the way Diaz portrayed every woman in his life. This is the best part. Quick side note, I remember after handing this review, my teacher thought it was the funniest thing in the entire world that he wanted the class to read it. And I was like this shy little reader girl, and I was like, oh no, I don't want to read it in front of the class. So my friend Nick read it out loud, and I just cannot wait for you guys to hear how ridiculous this was. The inconsistency of the stories also suggests that Junior might have dropped his journal, chose a few loose sheets that fell out onto the floor, slapped a cover on it, and called it a novel. Oh my god, my class was just laughing out of their seats. Maybe because it was funny, or mostly probably because it was just so unexpected from me. The interactions between Junior and the other characters are extremely unrealistic and exaggerated, even for somebody as big of an asshole of himself. Oh. He has a nasty knack for cheating and pushing away the little bit of love he receives in his life. I was so mean, and I didn't even care. Junior may have been a more caring young boy compared to his family, but his upbringing cannot be the only excuse for his future actions. Messing up countless relationships and screwing over the only girl he might have actually loved is not justified by what he reserves from Rafa's past girlfriends. Throughout his teenage years, he becomes too comfortable with the cycle of dating, cheating, and losing. Ultimately, Junior has just become a sad man, afraid of long-term commitment and compassion for women as a whole. I had really strong feelings on this book. Having started with Diaz's 4-page Alma, quick side note, Alma is the second novel, but we read it first. I think our teacher was intentionally trying to shock us because it was so vulgar and gross, and I felt dirty after reading it. Like, I hated it so much. That was my first experience reading the book, and I had just known from the start that this was not something I was going to take lightly. Having started with Diaz's 4-page Alma, an anecdote about just another one of Junior's short-term girlfriends that he cheated on, I didn't need much more to already tell what kind of guy Junior would come to be before the beginning The Cheater's Guide to Love, the final story about his fiancée that he cheated on 50 times. in bold before seriously regretting his decisions for the first time. Another side note, I'm really ashamed at how long that run-on sentence was because I ran out of breath while reading it. These stories follow a redundant pattern focusing on Junior's cycle of dating and cheating or his personal accounts with the false ideas associated with what kind of man he should be given by none other than his father and brother. As for the conclusion, This Is How You Lose Her is definitely at the bottom of my recommendation list. Coming from somebody who absolutely loves to read, this was a novel I struggled to get through and came up with almost nothing positive to say. Let's be real, I didn't have a single positive thing to say about this book. I found several problems with the characters, character development, online plots, and possibly every word choice Junot Diaz made. I was such a savage. If you value a positive view of women in literature, or even just an enticing book to read, this is definitely not the type of book for you. Tea drop. I would say mic drop, but I didn't have a mic. So that is my first ever book review. I definitely think I would still have the same opinions on this book had I reread it, just because I thought it was a sexist piece of trash and I just don't even care for the underlying motives behind it because I thought it was terrible. So yeah, that's what we read in our contemporary literature class, and that was my review. I got an A on it, let's just be clear. My teacher loved it and it was great. I'm a little disappointed. I used to be so much more sassy in my reviews. Now I feel like anytime I give something a bad star, I have to achieve this level of savage. But let me know what you guys thought. Have you read This Is How You Lose Her? I'm very curious if you have, what you thought of it, because I absolutely hated it and everyone in my class didn't like it. But I'm definitely interested to see if anyone on BookTube has read it and has positive views on it, but I really did not like this book as what was reflected in this review. Let me know if you liked my review. I am very proud of it. This is something that I'm going to keep for a very, very long time and just whip it out at parties and stuff and be like, do you want to hear my first ever book review? And no one's going to care, but I'm still going to think that this is the funniest thing I've ever written. But that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you soon for a new one. Bye!